Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. My name is Glenn, and today I have our roundup of the upcoming games for this next week. For the purposes of this list, I'm going to go from today's date, which is the 18th of March, up to about the 25th, so about a week's worth. So what does the Pandora's box that is the eShop have in store for us this week? Let's find out. First up then, and what is that coming through the mist that I see? Is that Trials Rising? No, I'm joking, it's Turok. Mark is currently writing a review of this one for us. He's beavering away like a little beaver. And I remember when this game came out on the Nintendo 64 back in the day. I remember my mate and I both got our new Nintendo 64s. I got Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wings. He was richer than me and got 3 games, one of which was Turok. I never actually owned it myself, so it'd be very interesting to see how it's held up. Next one actually sounds pretty interesting, to be fair. It's called Symmetry. It's described as a survival management game where you must keep a band of crash survivors alive on a desolate planet. It has a very interesting low poly art style with some nice pale pastel colours used, and sees you having to gather the parts of your spaceship in a race against time. Sounds a little bit like Pikmin with a bit of This War of Mine chucked in, to be honest. Maybe one to keep an eye on. Super Kickers League is the next one, and this is a football game, but more in the style of something like Super Mario Strikers. It looks to be quite fast and frantic, with the ball never going out of play, a bit like, for those of you that may remember, the indoor mode in FIFA 98 Road to the World Cup. What a cracking game that was, by the way. Next up then we have Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody from Square Enix. This is of course a spin-off from the Final Fantasy series. This spin-off is not a series I know much about, so perhaps some of you could educate me in the comments section as to what exactly this one entails. The next game is called Azure Striker Pathfinder Deluxe Edition. Now this one is an isometric turn-based RPG according to the blurb on the eShop, and promises classic old school adventuring with tons of puzzles and secrets to discover. Now looking at the screenshots for this one, some of the screenshots look really quite impressive actually and make the game look lovely, and others look very mobile. This looks like one that could go either way, to be perfectly honest. So far then so good, or so not bad at least. Let's see how we do with the last few of this week, shall we? The next one is called Reptilian Rebellion. Oh dear me, how to describe this one? Well, let's start with a positive, shall we? It's nice and cheap, I suppose. However, with a trailer that looks like it's been made in Microsoft PowerPoint, voxel graphics that really don't do it for me, gameplay that looks like it's been taken from Space Invaders and flipped on its side, and music that sounds like it's been taken from an elevator, I don't think we're onto a winner with this one, to be perfectly honest. Well, after that Reptilian Rebellion, we now have Super Phantom Cat Remate. This is, again, according to that blurb, a retro casual platformer. I didn't know you could get a retro casual game, to be honest. I seem to remember platformers in the past stamping on your throat if you dared to ask for a continue, but there you go, maybe that's just me. As well as all that retro casual goodness, the game also promises a cat that walks backwards and a rapping bear. Okay. And it also says that you should try skating on ice and see what craziness ensues. Probably the same thing that happens in every other platformer since the beginning of time that's had an ice level. Anyway, Super Phantom Cat Remake. Get it while it's hot. Next up then we have StarDrone. Now I'll be honest, when I first started watching this trailer, it made my eyes bleed. But actually, the more you get into it, it looks pretty cool. The basic idea, as far as I can tell, and by as far as I can tell I mean, again, reading the blurb, it promises pinball action with a bit of breakout thrown in for good measure. This is the sort of retro inspired game that I can get on board with, one that takes inspiration from the past but does something with it that's a bit new and looks pretty snazzy while it's doing it. I might be completely wrong, it might be a total letdown, but first impressions are good ones. Next one is called Sushi Time. Now again, this one does look like something that you'd find on a mobile. I don't know if it's ever been on mobile, to be fair. But at the same time, it also looks like the sort of game that I could spend a few minutes with here and there and get enough enjoyment out of to warrant the £4.50 that it's asking. It looks a little bit like a Diner Dash sort of game. There was a game on the DS a few years ago called Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay in it where you had to prepare meals. Looks quite similar to that. And for the cheap price, to be honest, I might keep half an eye on this one. Next up then we have FaZe External Ink. I know the FaZe External series is one that's been going for quite a while now and has quite a big fan base, and I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this is the second FaZe External game to make it onto the Switch so far, albeit they've got very different gameplay styles by the looks of it. This is a high-end eShop game with obviously the high price to show for it, although I do believe this one has a physical version as well, should you wish to get it that way instead. Unravel 2 also makes it onto the eShop this week and is the sequel to Unravel, which was a puzzle platformer that was on the PS4 and the Xbox One. The biggest inclusion in this sequel seems to be that of 2-player co-op, and this has an absolutely beautiful aesthetic. It really does look quite stunning. I've never played the first Unravel game, so I'm actually quite intrigued to see what this one's like. Final couple of games then, I'm going to bundle these ones in together, and they are Air Conflict's Secret Wars and Air Conflict's Pacific Carriers. Now these are World War II based flight simulation games, and I think I'm right in saying that they came out on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, possibly the PC as well, a few years ago now. Both games include up to 8-player online multiplayer, and it'll be quite interesting to see whether these games have held up after all these years. So there you have it, another week, another set of games released on the eShop. Quite an interesting mix this week. You've got some higher tiered priced games, you've got some games from the past being re-released, you've got some cheap and cheerful puzzle games, and you've got some, shall we say, interesting looking options as well. Let us know if you're picking any of these up. Please do remember to leave a like if you like what you've just seen. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already for all things Switch all the time. A quick thank you to our patrons for all of your support, and thank you to all of you that watch our videos. Your support means the world to us. Until the next one, take it easy and happy gaming.